We'll turn now to Sunil Jain, who's with the Financial Express and is a former colleague, regrettably not so any longer, but always stimulating and provocative. So, Sunil.
Thanks, Nainan. Just to address the point that James made about India growing a lot faster than people look at, and there's a lot of unrecorded data. I think James, if you look at what's been happening over the last few weeks, with even the RBI finding that they've got a $6 billion gap in the export data, I think a lot of the unrecorded stuff is in the GDP data. But I was talking to Jay Panda, about the point that Nainan made, that why don't you look at this from the point of view of the politician? If the politician isn't convinced that he's going to win from these reforms, how's he going to benefit him? I think one of the points that, and I don't think Jay gave me enough data point, but the broad point that he made was, he said if you look at Nitish Kumar, you look at Patnaik, Naveen Patnaik, and you look at Narendra Modi, these are three states where the chief ministers have delivered high growth year on year. These are three states where the chief ministers seem to be coming back. So I think there is a very important thing about the messaging. Now, it's true that this doesn't apply all over the place. But I think messaging is very, very important. The BJP, for example, by talking about an India Shining campaign, I think clearly goofed up on the campaign. If they hadn't, you may have had the BJP back. So you would have a government which gave you growth and which came back. The government which most believe gave you reforms and yet they came back. So I think, I wouldn't say that, I think the political class is getting it, but it's a matter of how they actually craft their message out there. So there is some level of hope. I think we need to keep that in mind here. I would agree with what Jay was saying about the Gilded Age. I think we've got a serious problem here. I don't know whether the corruption levels as a percentage of GDP have gone up, but certainly if you look at 2G, Commonwealth, you look at what happened at the Delhi airport, you look at what happened on the Reliance KG Basin, certainly those levels, those numbers are numbers that we've never ever heard of. So those are huge numbers and we need to worry about them. I think, in fact, what becomes a bigger problem, why these numbers become a bigger problem to my mind is what's happened over the last, actually day before yesterday. Mukesh Ambani has actually effectively got control of CNBC and all the channels which it runs. We've been CNN, IBN, and things like that. His brother controls UTV. Till recently, he had a stake in TV Today. You've got Abhay Oswal, who just bought a 14% stake in NDTV. If corporate India is going to be buying up the television stations and the media and the print media, then who are the people who talk about these things? So one very vital part of your checks and balances is just disappearing. Now, maybe it's part of the process which happens all over the world, that happened all over the world, but that's something we need to be very careful about. I'm quite serious about this, but if, for example, a private sector company, let's say Reliance, if Reliance had a kind of the spill that BP had, let's say on the KG Basin, I don't see any journalist or enough journalists in India talking about the need to teach Reliance a lesson. The thing will be mostly about, do you know how many jobs they create? Reliance accounts for 3% or 4% or 5% of India's GDP. In any case, that many people die in road accidents every day, every year. Those are the excuses which will be trotted out. So I think this is a thing that we need to be concerned about. I won't dwell too much on it, but I think we need to be concerned about it. I think Jagdish, Arvind, I disagree with you on NREGA being perhaps the best social welfare scheme that we've seen. I've been looking at some of the data, and that would tell you that the leakages in NREGA are not very much different from what they are in other social sector spending of the government of India. And the way to do it is a very simple one. You look at the government data. The Ministry of Rural Development will tell you that we spend, let's say, 40,000 crores on NREGA. We spend 30,000 crores out of this on wages. Now, we look at that number, we keep it aside. To one side, we go to the NSS. We say the NSS has data on how many people worked on NREGA. It has data on what wages they got. You multiply the two, one by the other. You look at that number as a percentage of what the ministry says, and you'll get a figure of some 25 to 30%. So I think that's a problem. If you look at the number of poor people, again, that's something you can get from the NSS. In NREGA, that number is not very high. It's about 15, 20, 25%. So, that's a reservation that I have on that data. As far as the larger book is concerned, there's no doubt that your debunking myths is, in fact, to my mind, the relevance of this book more than the reforms that you suggest in the future, because those are something that most of us buy into, or at least people in this room would buy into. Your debunking myths is very, very critical, because even a large number of people in this room would tend to believe a UNDP report which says that India has got more malnutrition, more stunting than sub-Saharan Africa. We have this gentleman called Justice Katju, who's the head of the press council. So he's, in a sense, the boss of all journalists. And he thinks that the best journalist in the world is a person called P. Sainath in the Hindu. And P. Sainath has spent much of his adult life talking about how farmer suicides are going up and how malnutrition in India is growing. And that's why you have a food security bill also, by the way. So, so your debunking myths is very, very important. In fact, I would recommend that we do a PowerPoint presentation to MPs, on these myths, and a PowerPoint presentation to journalists, so they can understand that they shouldn't be perpetuating the same myths. Based on Suman, the NCR's data, we did a book on caste, and it was called Caste in a Different Mold. It was published by Business Standard, and basically we found that, of course, there is caste discrimination. Of course, Hindus don't like Muslims. Of course, Hindu Hindu owners of property don't want to give their property to Muslims by and large. That's all true. But if you take any group, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, OBCs, Muslims, anybody, their levels of income grow with education for all of them. Their levels of income grow as they move away from agriculture into services, industry and services. Their levels of income grow as they move away from rural areas to smaller towns to larger towns. So these are all facts. Now, so I think journalists need to be aware of that. We need to sort of explain that to people, and that's how even politicians will start talking about it. Last set of comments, I think that when you read this book, you tend to get depressed. That there are all these things which are weighing us down, and nothing is right with the world. And okay, so we need to put a picture of Sonia Gandhi or Rahul Gandhi, and we need to get these people sensitized. Only when they get sensitized will things improve in India. I don't think that's true at all. There's a lot happening in India. I've talked about for the last 20 years or more, in school also we probably learned that labor laws are a problem. You can't be having 9.5% or 9% growth in India for as many years as you did if labor laws are such a big problem. You can't have 9% growth if the cost of circumventing those labor laws is so huge. You can't have the kind of industrial growth that you're seeing in Gujarat and have a Narendra Modi come back if the industrial laws, if the labor laws are so difficult. So I think, we need to, you need to nuance some of our, I understand that, as a journalist or, you want to come across as a broad brush picture. But I think we need to, at least in our mind, keep those, the nuance in mind, because that's something that, it's a fact of life that you can't have these growth rates, you can't have all of this if things are indeed as bleak as we're talking about. And I think the last sort of set of things is, now we know that the political system lives on the leakages from the social sector expenditure. We know that for a fact. We also know for a fact that the Aadhaar program or the Aadhaar project has been derailed by fights within the government. But let's keep in mind that as we speak, there is an experiment going on in Jharkhand where in a few districts everybody has been, biometricked, as it were. They're going to start getting their payments, through mobile banking. So if that experiment works, I don't think it's going to be possible beyond a point to keep, from moving away from cash transfers. So I'm not saying that it's happening all over the place, but I'm saying there's enough happening in India for us not to get depressed. And I think one of the problems that we're getting when we're talking about this stuff, this is very important, but one of the problems that we're having is that we are all getting the impression that nothing is working, and that's not true. Hell of a lot is working. Yeah, thank you.